It's not just being clingy or needy. You get upset when they're upset. You learn that other people's emotions are more important than yours. Hello y'all, welcome back to another video dedicated to help you break out of the cycle of toxic behaviors and relationships in your romantic and personal area of your life. My name is Coach Jeanette from @Jeanette.xzito on TikTok and Instagram, and if you like personal development or romantic relationship content, make sure to subscribe and join the tribe. Do a deep dive in our video today and talk about codependency and why we're always thinking about other people's needs, other people's happiness instead of our own. Personally, this is something that I used to struggle with so much. If this resonates with you and you're researching about codependency and you want to learn more about it for yourself, this is the video for you. I feel like people kind of misunderstand what codependency really is, and they think it's just someone who is dependent on someone sometimes, or they're needy or clingy. Yes, these behaviors can categorize as codependent tendencies. However, codependency is another level of that. It's not just being clingy or needy, but it's actually constantly putting someone else's needs and wants above your own in order to feel like you're enough. Think about it like putting someone else on a pedestal and thinking that you need to make them happy in order to feel good about yourself. Now, you might see this a lot in your romantic relationships where you're constantly saying yes to your partner or doing things for them or thinking about what they would want instead of focusing on your life. Of course, there can be both, the focus on you and your partner. It's a healthy balance between being able to depend on other people and also be independent and do your own thing. In order to start healing and really breaking that cycle of codependency, it's important to get to the root cause of the issue and understand why this is happening in the first place. You might have heard some of these things growing up. Things like family first or family's everything, which means if someone's having a problem, we're all having a problem. Maybe if you express your needs growing up, you were met with criticism or anger, or even yelling or screaming. You might have heard the phrases like, oh, you're feeling upset? What about how I'm feeling? Now, all of these phrases are going back to that feeling of not feeling safe to express your emotion. And what you actually hear from these messages is that other people's emotions are more important than yours. You learn that your emotions generally have a bad effect on how other people feel. So you should probably shut that away or neglect it and think about other people first. Now, that's a really harmful message to hear as a child, and when you internalize it, it manifests unhealthily in your relationship. Especially in your romantic relationships, maybe you might start feeling your emotions for them. You get upset when they're upset. You feel the need to take care of how they feel all the time, and you're people pleasing and stepping around eggshells to make sure you don't rock the boat and all of a sudden make them upset. Because as a child, seeing your parents unstable, yelling, screaming, upset makes you feel unsafe, because if they're not okay, how are you okay, right? As children, we're completely dependent on our caregiver for survival and also for support. So you start internalizing all of these messages that you received from your childhood and become this codependent person in order to feel like you can survive. The thing about this that can be so dangerous is that when you're constantly focused on someone else's needs and wants, you're also essentially utilizing a avoidant behavior. It's the narrative that happens. We're in a distressful situation right now, or an argument, right? And we notice that someone's getting riled up, they're getting upset. And instead of expressing your emotions and talking about that in the relationship, you take that moment to actually put away your emotions and put their emotions first. And I'm not talking about doing this once or twice because I know someone's having a mental breakdown or like they're feeling really riled up and you want to be there for them. Once in a while, like it helps de-escalate the situation, right? And that's okay. I'm talking about constantly, like a pattern of always putting your emotions on a back burner or not even talking about it at all and making sure that someone else is okay, because you feel like if you can make sure that they're okay, if you can fix their feelings, if you can make them feel better, then everything will be okay. If they're okay, then I'm okay. We're almost trying to feel better through them, right? So we're not actually processing our emotions or experiencing them or letting them go. We shift our feelings by having someone else feel better. But whatever we wanted to say or want or needed, we push that away. It goes into the back closet for now until it keeps piling up. And then what happens when there's too much dirty laundry in the closet? That issue's gonna bust open and it's gonna come all spilling out, or we just keep forgetting about it. We keep pushing it back. and we essentially break the back of the closet and we start to forget to feel our emotions. We neglected our emotions and what we want and what we need for so long that manifests into different things. Sometimes it's depression, sometimes it's feeling numb. This is not a diagnosis in this video, but generally speaking, those are the things that manifest when we're constantly neglecting our own emotions and needs. And the reason why this is so dangerous is because it feels good to help other people. It feels good to be able to see someone smile, know that it was because of you. And that's not a bad thing to help other people, but it becomes dangerous when you're dependent on it in order to feel like you're good enough and that you deserve that relationship, right? And that's where that codependent behavior and tendency comes up, which is that need for a relationship to make you feel good enough, right? If I can help them, if I can fix them, if I can make them feel better, then that relationship is valid. I can add value to that. And essentially you're seeing your worth in your relationship only as what you can provide, right? Only as what you can do for them, instead of knowing that the relationship is great and you deserve to be in a healthy relationship just because you're you and you deserve to be loved. Because the problem is that when you feel like you need to do something in order to feel loved, you're essentially almost earning their love. And this often comes from growing up. If you feel like you needed to do things in order to be approved or loved. Maybe it's getting home a certain grade or doing the chores or washing the dishes, and if you didn't do anything, you were often met with anger, yelling, disappointment, which made you feel like you were quote-unquote not good enough. And so you learned that in order to feel like you're enough, you have to do things for people. Now, one of the other most common behaviors is caretaking, right? And I know we just talked about caretaking and doing things for other people, but now I want to talk about caretaking in terms of acts of service. Now, before we talked about emotions, and of course that also applies to actions, but I want to dive a little bit more in depth and talk about something that no one really talks about that much, which is feeling the need to take care of other people because it gives you a sense of control. And so growing up, if you had an emotionally unstable parent, right, always reacting, yelling, making like unpredictable environment, made you feel unsafe, you start taking on that role as a caregiver, right? A lot of people who are codependent don't actually get to live out their childhood as a kid. And I'm talking about, instead of being taken care of, living carefree, doing your own thing, you learn to be hyper vigilant, making sure that everyone's okay, walking around eggshells, and taking care of other people. This happens if you had mommy and daddy tell you their problems all the time, or even react badly whenever you showed your emotions, or they're asking you questions about what they should do in the relationship when you're just a child and that's not your responsibility. So what ends up happening is that we take those actions and we read it as, I have to take care of you, because if you're unstable, what is the chances of my survival going to be? And so what do? We start to want to take care of the other parent to make sure that they're okay, so that our chances of survival increase. So our chances of love and safety also increase. And what we learn from these messages is that our emotions are not that important. I have to compartmentalize, stick it to the side, constantly push them away so that I can make sure you're okay. So maybe you're constantly solving your parents' problems, being the middleman for them, or acting like they're a therapist when you're not. And how this ends up manifesting in your relationships is that you start to be the caretaker of everyone else. And the reason you feel like you need to do this is because you've associated caretaking with stability and control, right? Control over the situation, making sure that everything's stable. If I take care of things and make sure that everyone's okay, then I will feel safe, because that's what you had to do growing up. This most of the time leads to people pleasing, which is the third common behavior of a codependent person. If we're using the same scenario as before, where if we had unstable emotional parents growing up, we felt the need to almost walk around eggshells around them because we didn't want to set them off and trigger them and have them explode on you. So you might have felt like you had to play this role where you're this perfect daughter or son. You're constantly saying yes even though you don't want to. You've learned that your needs are selfish, that you have to put other people before you. And so you learn to people please, and this also shows up in your relationships now, where you're constantly saying yes even though you don't want to. And that essentially enables sometimes the other people's bad behaviors. If a friend is coming to you and they're constantly talking about their boyfriend problems and they're acting like you're their therapist, and you're just accepting it and you don't want to tell them no because you feel bad and you should be there for them as a friend even though you don't have that capacity to. Essentially people pleasing. And I would say that's almost like shape shifting. You're becoming someone else to meet their needs and molding yourself into this person even though that's not you. The thing about these behaviors is that the secret expectation that other people will do the same for you, right? A lot of the times we become someone else, meet their needs, take care of everyone else because we secretly want someone else to do that for us. Instead of communicating and speaking up about it, a lot of the times we almost just expect other people to do it because we're doing it. And it can build up resentment and a lot of anger if we don't get that same energy reciprocated. Of course, that's boundaries and we can talk about it in another video. But going back to people pleasing, we want to make sure that we're not becoming someone else just to make someone else happy. Because in a romantic relationship, you might find that you can lose yourself in that process. I know you're so used to being there for other people and taking care of them, but it's time to take care of yourself. It's not a bad thing to be there for other people, but if you're constantly needing to neglect yourself in order to do that, we want to cut that out and make sure it's a balance, right? Feeling needed is good, but if you depend on feeling needed in order to feel good enough, that's when it becomes unhealthy. Because your worth is not just dependent on what you do. You bring value just being here. Now, I hope this video gave you more insight on what behaviors start to manifest when you're codependent and where they came from in the first place. Because if you can understand the root cause of the issue, that's when we can start rewiring some of those unhealthy narratives that we've told ourselves. Now, personally, I've struggled with codependency a lot and it's led me to toxic relationships, which are not fun. What helped me is shifting a couple of these beliefs that I've internalized, and I started saying things to myself like, I'm not responsible for other people's emotions. I don't need to constantly fix someone else's emotions. And I want to quickly add, when we're constantly fixing other people's emotions and taking care of everyone else, we actually rob them of the most important thing that they can learn, which is experience. In order for someone to grow, they need to experience their mistakes and learn from them. But if we take that away, then they're not really learning anything. They're just learning to be dependent on you, which I know that secretly makes you happy, but that's not an authentic relationship. You want someone to choose you not because they need something from you, but because they enjoy being with you. Number 3, being my authentic self is going to lead me to genuine relationships that I can sustain long term. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to be building up resentment because I'm no longer holding codependent patterns. But I hope this helped, and if you have any more questions, make sure that you comment them below. And if you're looking for more one-on-one help, you can book a consultation call. I'll put all my links down below. I have my group coaching and one-on-one program that I work on codependency with my clients with. If you're looking for a helpful and supportive community, make sure that you join my Facebook group. Give a like, hit subscribe, and as always, you got this.